sign it, or lose everything. Those were the exact words his parents threw at me days before my wedding, like I was nothing, like my love was a bargain to be bought and sold, and the worst part? Alex, the man I thought I could trust, just stood there, silent. He knew. Imagine being 26 after years of grinding under dim desk lamps and fighting through scholarships at UCLA, only to be told you're not enough, that your dreams are just cute little hobbies. His mother even sneered, "Your dress is quaint." Budget-friendly. Can you feel that sting? Because I felt it burn through my chest. And just when I thought the humiliation couldn't cut deeper, I found out the betrayal came not only from them, but from him, the one person I believed would protect me. So let me ask you, if you were me, standing in front of that table, watching a family rip apart your dignity, would you sign away your future? Or would you fight back? If you're already starting to feel the outrage boiling in your veins, don't hesitate. Drop me a comment saying, "I feel you right now." Trust me, this story only gets darker and far more dangerous. I still remember those nights in Texas, the dim yellowish light of my desk lamp casting long shadows across the room, making everything feel small and quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioning and the rustling of my pages as I hunched over my textbooks. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy, but it was real. The house was still, like the world outside was asleep. But I wasn't. I couldn't be. I had something to prove. Mom and Dad were teachers, both of them always ready with that quiet, unspoken pride. They would peek in on me, sometimes pausing at the door just to check on their daughter, working tirelessly in the middle of the night. Mom would flash a smile and give me that encouraging nod, a silent, "You got this." Dad, though, his eyes always filled with admiration, would throw me a thumbs up before disappearing back into the living room. They didn't have much, but they always gave me everything they could, and that was more than enough for me. "You've got the grit, Emma," my mom would say, her voice lingering in my thoughts. "You'll make it." Those words were everything. They kept me going, made me feel like I could take on the world. I pushed through those long nights working hard, fighting exhaustion, fighting doubt. I had to make it, not just for me, but for them. My parents believed in me in a way that no one else did. Their faith in me was like a shield that kept the weight of everything from crushing me. And every night spent under that dim light, I wasn't just studying for a degree. I was building a future. I wasn't thinking about money then. I didn't care about that. It was about proving that I could rise, proving that I could make something out of nothing just like they had. All those years of late-night studying, the hours spent in libraries at UCLA, the constant fight for every scrap of success, it was all leading to this moment. Now, a few years later, I'm cruising down the streets of LA in my old hybrid. The engine rattles and the worn-out leather seats smell faintly of the stale air that's collected over the years. The paint on the car is peeling, and I always joke that it might fall apart at any moment, but it gets me where I need to go. People see me driving this car and probably think, "She's made it." But the truth is, no one really knows. They don't know about the $10 million I have sitting quietly in stocks and app valuations, $8 million from my grandma's investments, and another $2 million from my app. But I don't want anyone to know. Not yet, not until I'm ready to face it. The idea of people knowing what I really have, it's scary. Because what if they don't see me anymore? What if they only see the money? What if I'm just another face, just another person with wealth in a city that thrives on it? I've worked so hard for my success, and I fear that when they see the money, they won't see the work, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices. I pull into my parking spot staring at the apartment building in front of me. It's small, tucked away in a quieter part of LA. It's not much, but it's mine. I like it that way. The mismatched furniture, the creaky floors, the books stacked neatly on the shelves. This is my sanctuary. This is where I can hide, where I can just be myself without the noise of the world outside. I take a moment to breathe, the smell of the city air, part smog, part citrus, filling my lungs. I can hear the distant sounds of LA, the hum of traffic, a siren in the distance, the occasional chatter of someone walking by. But here, in my apartment, I feel a sense of calm, of peace. This is where I keep my secrets, where I keep my wealth hidden. But the truth is, it's not just about hiding the money. It's about hiding who I really am. If people knew the truth, would they still see me? Would they still see the person who worked hard for everything? Or would they only see the dollar signs? And then there's my grandmother. She was the one who taught me about hustle, about how to invest, how to make my money work for me. She always spoke in riddles, cryptic words about family secrets, about the stock market, about things I couldn't fully understand. It was like she knew something big, but she never shared it, not before she passed. Now all I have are the stocks she left behind and those cryptic words that echo in my mind. There's something buried there, something in those words that I can't shake off, something that could change everything. But I'm not ready to dig it up, not yet. I glance at my hybrid again, its dented frame reflecting the dim light of the streetlights. I wonder if I'll ever be able to just let go of the fear, the need to hide. I roll the window down, feeling the warm, dry breeze of LA wash over me. The city is alive, always moving, always buzzing with energy, and I too feel that energy, that hunger. I'm not just here to survive in this city. I'm here to thrive. I'm here to prove that it's not the money that defines me. It's the fight. It's the ambition. It's the hunger that keeps me going. But then I wonder, what happens when you start winning? When the work you've put in finally pays off? Do people see you for who you really are? Or do they only see the success? Do they see the hustle? Or do they just see the end result? And why am I hiding all of this? Why am I keeping my wealth a secret? What's at stake here, really? I remember the first time I saw Alex Rivera. It was at this buzzing Silicon Beach startup event, neon lights flickering above the crowd, casting colorful glows over faces and lapping up the energy of the night. The air was thick with conversation, ideas bouncing back and forth, people trying to make connections, to sell themselves, to show off. But I wasn't here for that. I was here for my app, the one that lets people learn languages quickly, especially immigrants trying to make a new life here. As I mingled, my mind kept drifting back to my app. I wanted to make a difference, and I was proud of what I had built. But standing in the middle of a sea of tech gurus and startup CEOs, it felt easy to get lost. Until he walked over, Alex Rivera. Charismatic, easygoing, with a smile that could light up the room. His presence was calm but commanding, like he had everything figured out. The heir to a Hollywood media empire. That's how people described him. But he didn't look like the usual heir to a fortune. He didn't have the aloofness that screamed privilege. Instead, there was this genuine curiosity in his eyes. And he was talking to me. To me. "I checked out your app. It's legit, Emma," he said, grinning, his eyes scanning me in a way that made me feel like I had something important to say. Total game changer. I smiled back, feeling a warmth spread inside me. His compliment felt real, and in a room full of people pretending to care, it was the first time that night I felt seen. His voice, relaxed, sincere, cut through the noise of the event, and for a moment I forgot where I was. The whole startup scene felt so foreign to me, with everyone talking about valuation numbers, business mergers, and investor backers. But with Alex, it was different. We spent the next hour talking about everything: tech, life, the struggles of building something from scratch. Our conversation flowed, easy and natural. It felt like we had known each other for years, not minutes. There was something magnetic about him, something that made me want to open up more than I ever had before. I found myself laughing at his jokes, feeling lighter than I had in ages. The night stretched on, and the lights of the event dimmed in my mind as he asked if I wanted to grab dinner after. Venice Beach, sunset, tacos. The idea sounded simple, but with him, everything felt special. His energy was contagious, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt this drawn to someone. As we drove down to the beach, I caught glimpses of his watch, that gleaming Rolex on his wrist catching the streetlights in a way that almost made me feel like I was in a movie. It was subtle, but I couldn't ignore the way it gleamed against the backdrop of his perfectly tailored shirt. When we reached Venice, the ocean waves crashed gently against the shore, the sky painted with warm oranges and pinks, stretching out over the horizon. He spread out a blanket on the sand, and the scent of the ocean mixed with the savory smell of the tacos we picked up. "Here, Emma? You've earned this," he said, passing me a taco, his fingers brushing mine lightly. The way he said my name, the casual affection in his voice, made my heart beat a little faster. We sat there for a while, eating, laughing, talking about everything and nothing. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in soft hues of purple and red, the cool breeze of the ocean brushing past us. It felt like a scene from a dream. Maybe it was the tacos, or maybe it was the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world, but I could feel myself getting lost in him. There was a warmth between us, something easy, something real. I didn't want to overthink it, but it was hard not to. His world was so shiny, his wealth, his connections, his effortless charm. But with him, none of that seemed to matter. He wasn't just the guy with the Rolex or the Hollywood connections. He was Alex, and that felt like home. But there was something lingering in the back of my mind. His family, his background, his world. It was all so different from mine. He was a part of something so much bigger, something I could only look at from the outside. Could this be my forever? I thought, unsure if I was rushing in or if I had finally found something real. As the night came to an end, he drove me back to my apartment. We didn't kiss, but there was a certain promise in the air, a quiet understanding that something had sparked between us. I felt a flutter in my chest, a hope I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. But even as I closed the door behind me that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was just a little too perfect. His warmth, his attention, it was exactly what I wanted. But was I really ready to step into his world? Was I ready for the things that came with it? His laugh felt like home, I thought again, as I glanced at the empty seat in my living room, my mind still racing. But that Rolex, that gleaming watch, kept shining in my mind. His world felt just a little too shiny. It's strange how love grows, isn't it? It's not always the grand gestures, the big moments. It's the little things that stick. The salt of the ocean on your skin, the sound of laughter filling the air, the way someone looks at you when they think you're not paying attention. Alex and I had our moments. Surf sessions in Malibu, where we wiped out in waves, laughing at our failures more than anything else. The sound of the waves crashing, the spray of salt water in the air, the feeling of sand between our toes. It was simple, but it felt right. Every time I glanced at him, I saw more than just a rich heir to an empire. I saw someone who cared, who made me feel like I wasn't just the girl who built an app, but someone he could see a future with. It wasn't always perfect, though. We spent nights burning dinners because we were too caught up in talking about life or debating over indie films we loved. There were moments when we both fell asleep on the couch, the TV still flickering in the background, the cold takeout boxes scattered around us like forgotten dreams. But that was us, messy, real. And then one evening, he took me to the Hollywood sign. I had no idea where we were going. But when we finally hiked up to the top, the city stretched out before us like 1,000 tiny lights. The sky above was clear, stars twinkling like diamonds, and in the distance, the neon lights of LA pulsed in rhythm with the beat of the city. Alex pulled out a small box, his eyes soft but intense. I could feel my heart racing, unsure if I should hold my breath or let it all out. "Marry me, Emma," he said, his voice barely a whisper over the night air. "Let's make it real." His eyes were locked on mine, sincere, vulnerable, full of everything I hadn't allowed myself to want. And there it was, the moment that changed everything. The ring sparkled under the moonlight, a diamond that caught the glow of the stars above us. My mind went blank. I couldn't hear the city or the noise of the world anymore. All I could see was him, and that ring. The world felt like it had stopped spinning. This was the moment I had dreamed of, right? This was what every late-night conversation, every shared glance, every quiet, beautiful day had been building up to. But even as I said yes, even as I let the joy fill me up like an unexpected rush, something in the back of my mind wouldn't settle. A shadow, a feeling I couldn't shake. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But it was there, looming just at the edge of my happiness, waiting to find its way in. A few days after Alex's proposal, we were back at Malibu. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of pink and purple, and Alex and I were walking along the beach, hand in hand. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen, the cool breeze brushing past us like a whispered secret. That's when I saw it, the flash. A camera flash from behind a cluster of bushes near the path. For a split second, I froze, my heart racing. But when I turned to look, there was no one there, just the flickering shadow of the trees in the distance. "Did you see that?" I asked, my voice shaky. Alex looked over at me, his brow furrowed. "What?" "That flash," I said, my gaze darting back to the spot where I'd seen it. "I could have sworn someone was watching us." He shook his head, dismissing it. "It's nothing, just someone taking a picture. Maybe a fan. This place is full of people with cameras." But something in the back of my mind told me it wasn't that simple. It wasn't a fan. It wasn't just someone casually taking a picture. There was something wrong about it. Later that night, as I sat in my apartment trying to focus on the excitement of the engagement, I opened the keepsake box my grandma had left me. She had always been a woman of mystery. Her cryptic advice, the way she'd hint at family secrets without ever saying much. I never really understood her, but I knew her mind was sharp, her intentions clear. Inside the box, along with a few old photographs and trinkets, was a letter, handwritten in her elegant script. "Emma, my dear," it began, "there are truths buried in the past, things I could never fully explain to you. You must trust your instincts as you always have. The time will come when the pieces fall into place. But be cautious, for there are shadows that have lingered far too long. Stay true to your heart, but beware the cost of hidden legacies." I read it over and over again, the words becoming a knot in my stomach. The buried truths, the shadows, it all felt too familiar. It was like the universe had been trying to tell me something, had been trying to warn me long before I even knew to listen. Was this about my grandma's wealth? Or was it something deeper? Something tied to Alex's family? I glanced at the diamond ring on my finger, still sparkling in the low light of my apartment. I should have been excited. I should have been planning our future. But instead, all I could think about was that flash from the bushes and what it all meant. Alex's proposal had felt like a vow, a promise of something beautiful. But that flash, those words in the letter, felt like a warning. The joy in my chest couldn't drown out the unease creeping in. Who was watching us? And what were we really stepping into? The first time I saw the Rivera mansion, I couldn't help but be in awe. As the gates slowly opened, the sprawling estate revealed itself like something out of a magazine. Glassy walls reflecting the blue sky, an infinity pool stretching out to the edge where the ocean met the horizon. The house stood tall, imposing, as if it was designed to remind everyone that this family didn't just live in luxury, they owned it. I parked my car, the tires crunching softly on the gravel. The contrast between the weathered hybrid I was driving and the sleekness of the mansion felt sharper than ever. The air was different here, crisp, salty, but tinged with something more, something colder. As I walked up the steps, I could almost feel the weight of their gaze on me before I even knocked. Victor and Elena Rivera greeted me at the door. His handshake was firm, calculating, like he was inspecting a new acquisition, not welcoming a guest. Her smile, on the other hand, was thin and cold. It didn't reach her eyes. I could tell right away that this wasn't going to be easy. "Welcome to our home," Elena said, her voice dripping with a sweetness that felt unnatural. "It's so nice to finally meet Alex's fiancé." I nodded politely, trying not to let her tone bother me, but it stung. It stung deep. I had imagined this moment, meeting Alex's family many times, but I hadn't expected this icy reception. As we sat down to dinner, I could feel every word they spoke, every glance exchanged between them, like a weight pressing down on me. Their mansion felt like a fortress, and I was a stranger who had somehow found my way inside. Victor didn't waste time with pleasantries. "So Emma, tell me more about your app," he said, the air quotes around app, somehow making it sound trivial. "Must be cute, right? Something for the little people." His tone was so condescending, I almost choked on my breath, but I held my ground, keeping my voice steady. "It's for immigrants, actually. We're focused on making language learning more accessible for people who need it most." Elena leaned in, her gaze sharp. "Oh, how noble," she said, her lips curling into a mock smile. "A little project of yours. How sweet. But don't you think, darling, that maybe you could ditch that and focus on fitting in with the Rivera brand?" Her words hung in the air, sharp as daggers. My app was a cute project to her, something I should leave behind in favor of becoming something bigger, something that fit into their world, this world of wealth, power, and legacy. I felt a rush of heat flood my chest, but I bit my lip, forcing myself to stay calm. I wasn't going to let them see how much they were getting to me. Not yet. Alex, sitting beside me, remained silent. His eyes flickered toward me, but I could tell he was used to this. He had lived in this world his entire life, been molded by it. And now it seemed like I was just another one of his projects, a token fiancé to show off at dinner parties. Elena's voice cut through my thoughts again. "Scholarships at UCLA, huh?" she said, her smirk widening. "That must have been rough." I blinked, taken aback by her words. "I earned my place there," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course," Elena said, her tone dripping with fake sympathy. "It must have been quite the struggle, coming from where you did." The way she said it, like my background was something to be ashamed of, made my stomach churn. I clenched my fists under the table, holding back the words I wanted to say. Alex finally spoke up, but it was clear he was just trying to smooth things over. "Mom, that's enough," he said, but his voice was flat, almost resigned. He had heard this all before. I could tell. I forced myself to smile, trying to mask the frustration building inside me. This wasn't the kind of family I had imagined Alex came from. I had seen the wealth, the beautiful house, the perfect smiles in photos, but now, in person, it felt like something darker, something oppressive. As dinner continued, I felt like I was sinking deeper into their world, a world that didn't belong to me. Victor talked about protecting the empire, as if it was some kind of mission, as if the Rivera legacy was more important than anything else. His voice had that cold, authoritative tone, and every word he spoke was wrapped in power. I couldn't help but wonder what I had walked into. Was this what Alex had grown up with? Was this what he had come to see as normal? I glanced at him, trying to read his face, but he wasn't looking at me. He was lost in the conversation, a bystander in his own life. It was like he had accepted this world, this suffocating control long ago, and there I was, stuck in the middle of it, stuck between the man I loved and a family that clearly didn't understand me, and probably never would. Their words sliced like knives, each jab sinking deeper into my chest. But I clung to the love I had for Alex, holding on to it like a lifeline. I couldn't afford to lose that. Not yet. But as the night wore on, I began to wonder, how much of this world could I really survive? Would I ever fit in here? Or was I always going to be an outsider looking in from the outside, trying to squeeze into a mold that was never meant for me? The idea of planning our wedding felt like a dream at first. Alex and I had picked a date, and I was ready to dive in. I envisioned something intimate, something real, just the two of us and maybe a few close friends, with the ocean breeze in the air. But from the moment Elena stepped into the picture, that dream began to crumble into a nightmare. We arrived at the beach resort she had chosen for us. Her words, not mine. I tried to stay optimistic as we pulled into the driveway, the ocean stretching out in the distance, the soft sound of waves crashing against the shore. The scent of salt water hung in the air, but there was a coldness to it, like the air knew something I didn't. The resort itself was breathtaking. I'll give Elena credit for that. The glass walls, the infinity pool that seemed to spill into the horizon, the lush gardens. It all screamed luxury. But as I walked through the grand hall with its crystal chandeliers and oversized floral arrangements, I felt like a fish out of water. It wasn't me. It wasn't the simple, intimate wedding I had imagined. It felt more like a performance, a spectacle meant to impress, not something meaningful. Elena, however, was thrilled. "Isn't this just perfect?" she said, her voice thick with that sugary sweetness that always set my nerves on edge. Her hands swept across the tables, inspecting every detail like she was in charge. This is what the Rivera family deserves. No more of those quaint little weddings. I tried to mask the discomfort creeping up my spine with a tight smile. "It's beautiful," I replied. But even as I said the words, they didn't sound convincing. This wasn't my vision. This wasn't even close to it. Everywhere I turned, Elena was calling the shots. The flowers, the decor, the theme. She had already decided. I was just an afterthought, tagging along as she proudly displayed her choices. I could feel the tightening in my chest with every word she spoke, every grandiose suggestion she made. I wasn't part of the process. I was being swept along by a current that I had no control over. We moved to the floral arrangements next, each one more extravagant than the last. Roses, lilies, orchids, each one more expensive than the next. My mind wandered to the idea of something simpler. Wildflowers, earthy tones. Something organic that would make the day feel real, not forced. But Elena wasn't having any of it. "Emma, darling," she said, her eyes narrowing, "no one does wildflower chic at a Rivera wedding. We need something elegant, sophisticated." I felt my breath catch in my throat. "I just want something natural," I said quietly, barely above a whisper. She laughed, a sound that felt as fake as the smile on her face. "Your dress is quaint enough, don't you think?" Her words cut deep. She was talking about my dress, the one I had chosen, a simple bohemian design, one that felt like me, a dress that would let me be myself on my wedding day. But to Elena, it wasn't a dress. It was a budget-friendly choice. "Your dress is quaint, Emma. Super budget-friendly," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I'll help you find something more fitting for a Rivera wedding. Don't you worry." It was like a slap to the face. The dress I had dreamed of, the one that made me feel beautiful and free, was now nothing more than a reflection of my inability to fit into their world. Elena didn't just dislike it. She dismissed it entirely. She dismissed me. And what was worse? Alex didn't say a word. He stood there, his eyes flicking between his mother and me, silent. He was too afraid to challenge her, too used to letting her dictate everything. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt. The more time I spent with Elena, the more I realized just how deep this went. It wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't just about the flowers or the dresses. It was about fitting into a world that wasn't mine. A world where money, status, and power were everything, and who I was, where I came from, didn't matter. All that mattered was how well you played their game. As we moved through the venue, Elena pointed out every luxury, every extravagant touch she had chosen with pride. Chandeliers that cost more than my entire apartment, over-the-top floral arrangements that would have been perfect for a royal wedding. Each step I took felt heavier than the last. None of it felt real to me. None of it felt true. But I couldn't say that. Not with Alex standing beside me, looking more like a bystander in his own life than someone who was supposed to be by my side. "I'm glad you like it, Emma," Elena said, her tone dripping with satisfaction. "This is what we deserve." I nodded, pretending to agree. "It's beautiful," I repeated, but the words felt hollow. I wasn't excited. I wasn't even happy. I was drowning in expectations that weren't my own. The worst part? Alex didn't even seem to notice. He was too busy keeping the peace, too focused on making sure his mom was happy. His silence spoke louder than anything he could have said. At the end of the day, I realized something. Every choice had already been made. Every detail, every decision had already been locked in. I was just along for the ride, a passenger in a world I didn't understand and didn't want to be a part of. I had let Elena take control, let her push me further into a world that didn't feel like mine. As we left the resort that evening, the weight of everything settled in. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore felt distant, almost suffocating. Was this what it meant to marry into this family? To be swallowed whole by their expectations, their control, their power? I looked out at the ocean, trying to find some kind of peace, but all I felt was isolation. Every step I took felt like I was losing myself, bit by bit. And when Elena's voice floated over to me, her words final and firm, I knew there was no turning back. "We'll get you a proper dress," she said, her voice cool, "one that reflects the Rivera name." And something inside me broke. It's funny how you can feel the weight of a moment before it even happens. You can sense something shifting in the air, a change you can't quite name, but that fills every space around you. That's how I felt the moment I stepped into the Rivera mansion that day. Elena had invited me for coffee. Just me, her, and maybe a quiet chat about the wedding. But from the moment I walked through the door, I knew this wasn't going to be a friendly conversation. The air was thick, colder than usual, and the housekeeper's icy stare made it clear that I wasn't welcome here. Her face was unreadable, and as she led me through the grand hall, I could feel the walls closing in on me. Elena was waiting for me in the study, sitting behind a polished marble table that looked too cold to be real. The room smelled faintly of expensive wood polish, and the ocean breeze from the windows did little to calm my nerves. Victor stood by the window, his back turned, the view of the ocean stretching out before him like it was his domain, like he owned everything in sight. Elena's smile was sharp, the kind of smile you give someone when you've already made up your mind about them. "I'm glad you could make it, Emma," she said, her voice sweet but cold. "We need to talk." Victor's eyes didn't meet mine. He just slid something across the table, a thick document, its edges crisp and its weight too much for me to ignore. It was the prenup, the one-sided prenup that would protect the Rivera assets, everything Alex's family had built, while leaving me with nothing. He didn't even give me time to process before he spoke. "Sign it, Emma," Victor said, his voice cold as ice, "or the wedding's off." I froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The words sank into me like lead, heavy and suffocating. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't look away from the document. Everything I had worked for, everything I had fought to build, my app, my dreams, none of it mattered to them. Elena's laughter cut through the silence, like she found this all amusing. "You didn't really think you'd marry into the Rivera family without a little..." Protection, did you? She mocked. That app of yours? It's cute, really. But let's be honest, it's just a hobby. And Alex, well. She leaned back, her smile turning into something that was less of a smile and more of a challenge. Alex gets it. Family comes first. I stared at the prenup, the words blurring in front of me. They didn't even see me. They didn't see the woman who built something with her own 2 hands. All they saw was a project, something to control, something to mold into their vision of what should be. But the worst part, the part that made everything crumble inside me, was when they casually dropped it. Alex knew, Victor said, his voice low and dismissive. He knew about this. He let us handle it. He knows where his loyalty lies. My breath caught. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. Alex knew. He had known about this, about the prenup, about their plans, and stayed silent. He hadn't said a word to me. He had let them do this. My mind raced. My vision blurred. How could he do this to me? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the document in their faces and run out of that mansion, away from their suffocating control. But I couldn't. I couldn't even move. The words echoed in my head over and over again. Alex knew and stayed silent. And then, in the midst of the chaos in my head, I saw it. A flash of light. Just a brief moment, a glint in the corner of the room. My eyes darted toward the source. A camera lens catching the light as if it had been aimed at me the entire time. A hidden camera. It was subtle, but it was there. My stomach dropped again, this time in horror. They were watching me. They had been watching me. I was a pawn in a game they had already decided. They weren't just controlling my future. They were surveilling every move I made, every word I said. I looked at Victor and Elena, their faces blank and unreadable. They had been waiting for me to break, waiting for me to do something, anything, that would give them the power to control this moment, to control me. But I didn't break. Not yet. "Sign it, Emma," Victor repeated, his voice colder now, "or this wedding ends before it even starts." I looked at the prenup. My mind raced. How could Alex let this happen? How could I ever trust him again? The camera flash, the hidden surveillance. It all felt like a trap I had walked into willingly, trusting someone who wasn't worthy of that trust. And then, in that frozen moment, I realized that everything I had believed about Alex, about his family, was a lie. They were never going to let me in. I wasn't part of their world. I was just a temporary fixture. I was trapped. I stood up slowly, my hands shaking, my heart racing, but I didn't say anything. Not to them, not to Alex, who had been standing silently by the side, watching it all unfold. As I walked toward the door, I felt their eyes on me. They didn't care. They didn't need to. The wedding, the family, the lies, they had all been set in motion before I even knew what was happening, and I didn't know if I could survive it. The hum of the car engine was the only sound in the otherwise chaotic blur of my thoughts. As I drove down the LA freeway, the world outside seemed to be moving faster than I could keep up with. The neon signs, the honking cars, the distant sounds of sirens, it all felt like white noise compared to the pain that was gnawing at me from the inside. I could feel my hands gripping the steering wheel harder with each passing second, but it wasn't enough to calm the storm raging in my chest. The betrayal was still fresh, like a wound that wouldn't heal. Alex, my fiancé, the man I thought I could trust, and yet he had stood there, silent, as his family tore me apart. Tears blurred my vision, streaming down my face as I fought to keep my grip on reality. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think straight. The words from the Rivera mansion echoed in my mind over and over again. Alex knew and stayed silent. He knew, and he said nothing. I couldn't do this. I couldn't go on like this. Not anymore. But as I drove, the one thought that kept surfacing through the fog was this: I'm not done yet. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let Alex's silence be the end of me. I pulled over onto the shoulder of the freeway, the screech of tires on the asphalt mixing with the chaotic sounds of the city. The car came to a stop, the engine humming softly in the background, but my mind was a tornado. The prenup was still crumpled up in my lap, its weight heavy, suffocating. I could feel the cold paper against my skin, but it didn't matter. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about respect. This was about my self-worth. I couldn't believe what I was about to do, but I knew I had no other choice. I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling. The screen lit up and I tapped the contact I knew I could count on. Mia, my best friend, the one person who knew everything about me, everything about my struggles, my dreams, my deepest secrets. The phone rang, the ringing echoing in my ears, and then her voice, sharp, full of the anger I couldn't voice myself, came through the speaker. "Emma? What the hell happened? Are you okay?" Mia's voice was like a lifeline, pulling me out of the darkness for a second. "Mia," I gasped, the weight of it all crashing down again. I can't. I don't know what to do. They want me to sign a prenup. It's all about their damn family legacy, their wealth. And Alex just stood there. He knew and stayed silent. Mia was silent for a moment, and then I heard her sharp intake of breath. What? That's so messed up, Emma. You can't just sit back and let them do this. You need to call a lawyer. Now. Her words hit me like a thunderclap. I could feel the fire in her voice, the same fury that was beginning to spark inside of me. She was right. I had to fight back. I will, I said, my voice shaky but growing steadier with each word. I'm going to fight this. I'm not going to let them control me. Mia's voice softened, but I could still hear the determination in it. Good. You deserve better than this, Emma. Don't let anyone tell you you're worth less than you are. I'll help you. You're not alone in this. The weight in my chest started to lift, just a little. Her support, her unshakable belief in me, reminded me of who I was. I wasn't just some pawn in their game. I had fought my way to where I was, and I wasn't going to let them take it away. I hung up the phone and stared at the prenup again, my heart pounding. Something was off about it. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just about controlling the assets. As I skimmed through the terms, my eyes caught something. A clause about intellectual property that didn't sit right. Why would they include that? It felt like there was something deeper, something more sinister, hidden in the fine print. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. Was this about more than just controlling me? Was this about taking control of everything I had built? My app? My legacy? My future? A new wave of anger surged through me. I wasn't just being betrayed by Alex. I was being betrayed by the very thing I had worked for, my dreams being ripped away by a family that didn't care about me, about us. It was time to take back control. With a steady hand, I ripped the prenup in half, the sound of the paper tearing like the breaking of a chain. I was done. Done with feeling powerless. Done with letting them push me around. I was going to fight for my future, for my worth, for everything they had tried to take from me. I slammed the car door shut, the sound echoing in the stillness of the night. As I stood there, looking out over the freeway, the chaos of LA in front of me, I knew one thing for sure. I was done breaking. This was my fight now, and I wasn't going to lose. The weight of the moment was pressing down on me as I sat in my downtown LA office, the city's neon lights casting faint reflections against the glass walls. The hum of traffic from the streets below seemed distant, almost muffled, as if I were in a bubble, separated from everything. But inside that bubble, everything was changing. The prenup lay open before me. Their prenup. The one they had tried to trap me with. The one they thought would break me. I wasn't going to let it. I wasn't going to be the pawn in their game anymore. I'd worked too hard to build my life, my company, to let them tear it all down. The $10 million from my grandmother, the app that I had poured my heart and soul into, it was all on the line. But this time, I had something they hadn't counted on: my own strength, my resolve, and the one person who could help me turn the tables: Carla. Carla was my grandmother's lawyer, sharp as a blade. I trusted her, and I knew that she would help me protect everything that mattered. The moment she walked into the office, her heels clicking against the floor in steady rhythm, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. She was here, and she was ready to fight. Without a word, she sat down, her eyes already scanning the prenup. Her hands moved quickly, tearing through the clauses with a speed and precision that made it clear. She knew exactly what she was doing. "This prenup is a trap, Emma," she said, not even looking up from the paper. "They've been working on this for months. They want to control your app's intellectual property. They're trying to make sure you don't walk away with anything." Her words struck like a punch to the gut. The weight of their manipulation, their complete disregard for everything I had built, sank in deeper than I wanted to admit. They were trying to take it all: the money, the app, my independence. But I wasn't going to let them. Carla lifted her eyes from the paper and met my gaze. "We're not just going to let them do this. We'll write a prenup that bites back. We'll make sure you're protected. And if they want to fight, they'll get one." Her confidence was infectious. I could feel the fire burning inside me, growing stronger with every word. I wasn't going to let Alex's family control my future. Not now, not ever. As Carla worked, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced down, the screen lighting up with an anonymous email. My heart skipped a beat as I read the subject line: "Hidden codicil in the will." I opened the email without hesitation, my fingers trembling as I read the brief message. "There's more to your grandmother's will than you know. There's a hidden codicil, a secret clause that ties her fortune to something bigger. Don't trust Alex's family." A chill ran down my spine. My grandmother had always been mysterious, leaving cryptic hints about family secrets. But this was something deeper. The stranger, the one who had been taking photos of me at the proposal, was somehow involved. The same stranger who had watched us, who I had seen lurking in the shadows. They were connected to my grandmother's will. The truth was unraveling faster than I could keep up with, and it scared me. I clicked open the attached file, my heart racing as I scanned the document. It was about the family's assets, my grandmother's fortune, and something that tied all of it together with Alex's family, but it didn't make sense. Not yet. Carla's voice pulled me back from the screen. She had noticed the look on my face, the way my hands trembled slightly as I read. "What is it?" she asked, her tone sharp with concern. I handed her the phone and she read the email quickly. Her face hardened as she scanned the words. "Looks like we've got ourselves a new layer of this mess," she said, tossing the phone back onto the desk. "This isn't just about you and Alex anymore. It's about something much bigger, and whatever it is, it's tied to your grandmother's fortune." I felt the ground shift beneath me, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fall into place, but they were bigger and more dangerous than I had imagined. What had I walked into? My grandmother's will, her legacy. Everything was now part of a game I wasn't prepared for. Carla looked at me again, her expression unwavering. "You're not alone in this, Emma. We'll fight back. This codicil, it's your ace. You need to figure out what it means, and when you do, it's going to change everything." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. The weight of it all pressed against me, but I couldn't back down. I had come too far. I wasn't just fighting for my future. I was fighting for my truth, for everything my grandmother had left me. I owed it to myself. I owed it to her. As Carla continued to make notes, outlining the changes to the prenup, I couldn't help but feel that something was shifting inside me. The uncertainty, the fear, the doubt. It was all being replaced by a sense of purpose. The pieces were coming together, and while I didn't have all the answers, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. And when I finally uncovered the full truth about the codicil, everything would change. I was ready. The air in the Silver Lake Cafe felt thick, heavier than usual. Maybe it was just the weight of the moment. The dim, rustic interior, the scent of strong coffee wafting through the air, the soft clink of cups being set on wooden tables. It all felt so ordinary, but inside me, everything was anything but ordinary. My heart was pounding in my chest as I stared across the table at Alex, the man I once thought I could trust. I had been holding on to my anger for so long, but it was time to let it out. I couldn't hold back anymore. The steam from our lattes curled upward, dissipating into the air between us. My fingers curled around the edges of the prenup, the one I'd been carrying with me ever since the disastrous meeting with his family. Without a word, I slammed it down on the wooden table in front of him, the sound sharp, breaking through the quiet hum of the cafe. His eyes darted down to the paper, then back up at me, and I could see the guilt in his face, the guilt I had been hoping for, the apology I'd been desperate to hear. But instead, all I could see were the cracks in the facade he'd built, the one I had trusted with everything. "I need you to choose a side, Alex," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but full of a force I had never thought I'd need. "I can't keep doing this." He didn't speak at first, just stared at the table, his hands restless as if he were trying to keep his composure. I could feel his guilt hanging in the air, thick and suffocating. His face crumpled slightly, and when he finally looked up, I saw the cracks in his eyes, his shame. "I told Mom about your money, Emma," he muttered, his voice low, the words barely audible over the noise of the cafe. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. "I didn't think you could handle their world without them calling the shots." I froze. My heart stopped beating for a moment. The words he'd just spoken cutting deeper than anything I could have imagined. He had told them. He had told Elena and Victor about my inheritance, about the very thing I had kept hidden, the very thing I had fought so hard to keep separate from everything else. And he'd done it without telling me. "You told them?" I couldn't stop the anger that rushed through me, the bitterness, the betrayal. "You chose their side? After everything I've done, after everything we've been through, you chose to hand them my secret, my security, like it didn't matter." His face crumpled further, the guilt now too much to bear. "Emma, he started, but the words faltered in his throat. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. His touch wasn't enough anymore. Not after this. Not after everything he had kept from me. "No, Alex," I said, my voice shaking with fury and hurt. "You knew, and you did nothing. You let them control me. You let them treat me like a nobody, like I didn't matter, like my hard work, my dreams weren't worth anything." I stood up suddenly, the chair scraping against the floor as I stepped back from the table. My heart was racing, my thoughts scattered, but one thing was clear. I had to take control of this moment. I couldn't let him make excuses. Not anymore. "You want me to trust you?" I said, the words burning as I spoke them. "Then look at me, Alex. Really look at me. Because I'm done being the victim. I'm done being the one who doesn't know what's coming next. I've kept my secrets for so long, my money, my future. And you handed it over to your family like it was nothing." His eyes were filled with regret now, but it wasn't enough. The silence stretched between us, too long, too suffocating, until I reached into my bag and pulled out the bank statements. I slapped them down on the table, the sound of paper hitting wood like a declaration. He looked at them, and his face paled. "My $10 million, I said quietly, my voice thick with emotion. You didn't think I could handle it, did you? But I built all of this on my own. I didn't need your family. I don't need their control. I never have." His eyes flickered between the statements and me, his mouth opening and closing as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. The silence between us wasn't just uncomfortable. It was suffocating. I didn't want to lose you, Emma," he finally whispered, his voice almost breaking. His hands clenched into fists on the table. "I didn't know how to tell you about my family, about how much pressure they put on me." I stood there, my eyes never leaving his. He was right. He didn't know how to tell me. He never tried. And in his silence, he had chosen them. He had chosen to stand by while his family manipulated both of us. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this, Alex," I said softly, my voice cracking slightly. "But I'm not the same person I was. I won't let anyone take my future from me. Not you, not your family, not anyone." I could see it in his face. He was devastated. But I wasn't sure that was enough anymore. His guilt wasn't going to fix this. It wasn't going to change what he had done. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't going to be their victim. And I wasn't going to let Alex's silence be the end of me. I had my truth now, and that truth would shatter their game. "You don't have to forgive me," Alex said quietly, almost pleading. "But I want to make this right. I will fix it. I swear, I'll fix this." I didn't answer him right away. The pain was still there, but underneath it, there was a spark, an ember of determination. We were a long way from being okay, but maybe we could take on his family together. Maybe, just maybe, we could still fight. The air in the Beverly Hills restaurant's private room felt thick, charged with tension. The dim glow of the chandeliers above cast sharp shadows across the polished table, and the hum of the city outside barely reached us, cocooned in this little bubble of luxury. I could almost taste the anticipation in the air, the weight of what was about to unfold pressing down on me. Victor and Elena were already seated, their expressions a mixture of arrogance and uncertainty. Their luxury was everywhere. Gleaming glasses, crisp linen, the smell of high-end wine in the air. But none of it mattered to me anymore. This wasn't about impressing them. This was about reclaiming control, my control. I placed the prenup on the table first, its edges sharp and crisp, the very document that had once been thrust in my face like a weapon. The sound of the paper sliding across the table seemed to reverberate through the room. The silence that followed felt like a dare, a challenge to them. "This," I said, my voice steady, "is a prenup that protects me, not you, not your empire, me." I could see the moment the realization hit them. Victor's jaw dropped, his eyes widening as he scanned the terms. Elena's face flushed a deep crimson, and her perfect composure cracked. It was the first time I had seen her falter, and the satisfaction that rushed through me was overwhelming. These were the people who had tried to control me, manipulate me, and now they were seeing the consequences of their arrogance. Victor cleared his throat, his usual confidence replaced by something else, something I could almost taste in the air. "You can't be serious," he said, his voice tinged with disbelief. "I am serious," I replied, my tone calm but unwavering. "This is my fight now." I let the words sink in before I reached into my bag, pulling out my phone. Their eyes followed my every move, and for a moment, I could almost hear the silence between us deepen. I could see their minds racing. What was I doing? What was I about to reveal? Without waiting for their questions, I tapped the screen, bringing up the footage that had been recorded during the ambush, the hidden camera they'd set up to spy on me. I watched as their faces drained of color when the footage began to play. There they were, Elena and Victor, looking down at me with smug expressions, unaware that they were being filmed. "You spied on me, Victor," I said, my voice low, almost a whisper, as I showed them the footage on my phone. And now that camera's my ace. The shock on their faces was priceless. Elena's eyes flicked between me and the phone, her lips trembling, but she didn't speak. Victor, on the other hand, clenched his jaw, his hands visibly shaking as he tried to regain control of the situation. It was as if the world had flipped on its axis. Their trap, their surveillance, everything they had done to try to manipulate me, it was all laid bare, and there was nothing they could do to take it back. The power had shifted. And this time, it wasn't in their favor. Victor sat back in his chair, his face pale, his hands trembling as they reached for the pen on the table. Elena, too, seemed to shrink in her seat. Her earlier confidence shattered. I could feel the weight of the moment, the victory within my grasp. We didn't think you'd catch on," Elena muttered, the words slipping from her lips like the last remnants of their control over me. "But we were trying to protect the family, Emma. You don't understand." "No," I cut her off, my voice sharp. "I understand perfectly. You were trying to protect yourselves. You were trying to make sure that I wouldn't take what's rightfully mine." There was no more pretension in her voice, no more mockery, just fear, and that was my victory. Victor picked up the pen, his hands shaking as he slid the prenup toward Elena. "We'll sign," he said reluctantly, his words laced with frustration. "But this isn't over." I watched as they both signed, their signatures trembling on the paper. There was no strength behind it, no confidence, only the sinking realization that they had lost, that they had been outplayed. And as they handed the signed documents back to me, I couldn't help but feel a rush of triumph. I had done it. I had fought back, not just for the money, but for my autonomy, for my future. The silence in the room was deafening, but it wasn't the uncomfortable silence I had been afraid of. It was the kind of silence that comes after a battle, when everything settles, when the truth has been laid bare. For the first time, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I was no longer at the mercy of the Riveris. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, I had the upper hand. Their smug masks had cracked, and I felt unstoppable. "What's next for us?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with the promise of everything to come. The answer wasn't clear yet, but for the first time in this entire nightmare, I felt like I was in control. I had my truth, and I wasn't backing down. The Malibu resort was nothing short of breathtaking. The ocean stretched out before us, the waves crashing softly against the shore, the sky painted with hues of pink and orange as the sun began its slow descent. The entire scene felt almost surreal, like a dream I had imagined and fought for. But this moment was real. I stood at the edge of the aisle, my bohemian dress flowing around my legs like the soft breeze that whispered through the air. It was everything I had wanted, simple, elegant, and true to who I was. The contrast to everything I had endured, everything I had fought through, was glaring. But as I began to walk, one step at a time, everything else seemed to fall away. The crowd was a blur, but the sound of the ocean, the music softly playing, and the occasional whisper of excitement were the only things that kept me grounded. My heart was racing. Was I truly ready for this? Was this what I had been fighting for? My gaze drifted up to the altar. Alex stood there, his face full of admiration, his eyes locked onto mine with a kind of intensity I hadn't seen before. He wasn't just looking at me, he was seeing me, truly seeing me for the first time in a way that mattered. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, not just to him, but to this moment, to this life I had fought so hard to create. As I reached the altar, there was Elena, standing with her back straight, her eyes glistening with something I couldn't quite place. She looked different, softer, almost human. The cold woman who had once tried to control everything was no longer there. Instead, standing before me was someone I had never truly seen before, vulnerable, regretful, and perhaps, for the first time, honest. She stepped forward, her eyes never leaving mine, and in a voice that trembled just slightly, she spoke. "Emma," she said, her words thick with emotion, I misjudged you. All of this. I've been so wrong. You're family now." I stood frozen, feeling a rush of emotions hit me all at once. Anger, pain, relief, and something I couldn't name. Her words felt like an unexpected weight lifting off me, a burden I hadn't known I was still carrying being gently removed. This wasn't just an apology. It was an acknowledgement. Of me, of my worth, of everything I had fought for. But Elena wasn't done. She reached into the folds of her dress and with a quiet sigh handed me a necklace. The heavy gold chain gleamed in the soft light, its intricate design unmistakable. It was a Rivera heirloom, passed down through generations, a symbol of their legacy. "Take it," she said softly. "This is from the Rivera matriarch. It's a symbol of respect. For you, for everything you've done, for who you are." I took the necklace, my fingers brushing against the cool metal. I could feel the weight of it, but it wasn't a burden. It felt like validation, like for the first time, I was truly being seen by them, not just as an outsider, but as a part of something real, something that mattered. And then, in the most unexpected moment, the stranger from the proposal, the one who had watched us from the shadows, stepped forward. He'd always been a mystery, a lingering figure, someone whose presence unsettled me. But now, standing before me in this sacred moment, he introduced himself with a quiet smile. "I'm an investor," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Your grandmother and I were involved in something, a legacy. Your success is more than just your own doing. She set it all up, with intentions far bigger than you might have imagined." My breath caught. The stranger wasn't just an outsider. He was a part of my grandmother's legacy, a piece of the puzzle I had been piecing together all along. And suddenly it made sense. The cryptic letters, the hidden codicils, everything had been pointing here. I turned to Alex, who looked as stunned as I felt. His hand found mine, and for the first time, I didn't feel alone in this fight. I was no longer just the girl with secrets. I was someone with a legacy, someone who had carved her own place in this world, and now it seemed like everything had come full circle. Elena, still standing beside me, smiled softly. "Your grandmother believed in you. She believed you could rise above all of this, and now you've proven her right." I couldn't speak for a moment, the enormity of it all settling in. But when I finally found my voice, it was steady, calm, full of everything I had been trying to say for so long. "I'm not just part of this family. I'm part of something bigger, something my grandmother set in motion," I said, my voice full of pride. "I've earned this, and I'll continue to earn it, for myself and for her." The ceremony went on, but the tension had broken. There was a calm in the air now, a sense of peace I hadn't felt before. As the vows were exchanged, I realized that this was more than just a wedding. It was a moment of redemption, of forgiveness, of reconciliation, and of finally finding my place in a world that had tried to take everything from me. When the vows were spoken and the kiss sealed, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The storm inside me had calmed, and for the first time in so long I could breathe easy. I had faced my fears, fought for what was mine, and won. As we walked down the aisle together, the sound of the ocean waves crashing behind us, I knew this was just the beginning, a new chapter, one where I wasn't just surviving, but thriving. And that was a feeling I would never trade for anything. 6 months. It's hard to believe how far we've come in such a short time. The days blur together, but the moments that matter stand still in my mind. I stand in our LA loft, the city skyline stretching out before me, its lights glittering against the darkening sky. The world outside is alive, restless, but in here, there's peace. I've unpacked the last of the boxes, and every item I place reminds me of how much we've grown. Alex and I. This isn't just a place to live anymore, it's our foundation, a symbol of everything we've fought for and everything we will continue to fight for. The shelves are filled with not just books, but pieces of us. There are the business books, of course, strategies and ideas, but also novels, some well-worn from college, others newer, gifts between us. Each one tells a part of the story of who we are and what we've been through. I run my fingers across their spines, grounding myself in this space, in this life we've built together. The phone rings, cutting through the silence. It's Elena. I take a breath before picking it up. Emma, I've been thinking. Her voice comes through, still smooth, still controlled. What about Malibu? It would be good for you, for the family, the house, the space. It's all waiting for you. I exhale slowly. I've already made my decision. Malibu's your vibe, Elena, not ours, I respond, calm but resolute. We're here, and this is where we're staying. There's a pause on the other end, the silence heavy. I can feel the weight of her unspoken words, but I don't let it affect me. Elena, we've moved on. We have our life here now. No more expectations, no more pretending. She sighs. I can tell she's struggling to find the right words, but she finally says, I understand, Emma. I hang up, the call ending as simply as it began. But as soon as I do, I feel the weight lifting from my shoulders. The tension I hadn't realized I was holding is gone. For the first time, I feel free. I move to the window, looking out at the sprawling city below. The skyline twinkles in the distance, a mirror of my own journey. It's been a long road, one filled with pain and betrayal. But every twist, every setback has led me to this moment. And for that, I am grateful. Most of all, I'm grateful for the strength Alex and I found together. I sit down on the couch, the soft leather cool beneath me, and open the file that's been waiting for days. The codicil from my grandmother's will. I've read it over and over, each time with a different realization. The secret clause, the hidden investments, it was all set in motion long before I even knew it. Everything, the stranger at the proposal, the mysterious connection to my grandmother's legacy, the investments that helped grow my app, now all makes sense. My grandmother had known what I was capable of, even when I couldn't see it myself. I read the final lines of the codicil once more, feeling the weight of my grandmother's wisdom. She had set me up for success, even in her absence. It wasn't just about money. It was about the legacy of strength she passed down to me. The mystery that had haunted me for so long, it's resolved. And it wasn't the money or the assets that mattered. It was the truth I'd been afraid to own. The room feels lighter now. The tension and fear that once held me back are gone. I've learned to stand in my truth, to never again hide who I am or apologize for what I've achieved. No one, not even the Riveras, can take that away. The sound of Alex's footsteps interrupts my thoughts, and he walks into the room. I look up and he smiles at me, the weight of the world melting away with that simple gesture. He's been by my side through it all, fighting with me, standing with me, and now we are here, stronger than ever. Are you okay? He asks, his voice full of concern. I smile softly, feeling peace settle into my chest. I'm more than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. We stand there for a moment, just letting the feeling of everything sink in. No more drama, no more expectations, just us, building the life we've always dreamed of. I take a deep breath, the scent of coffee still in the air from earlier. I think about everything that's brought me here, the betrayal, the anger, the confusion, but most of all, I think about the lesson I've learned. the lesson that my voice is powerful, that my truth is mine to own and no one can take that from me. I look out the window at the city again, its lights flickering like stars. Life doesn't always go as planned, but sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. And now I have a question for you. Have you ever flipped the script on someone who underestimated you? Have you ever shown the world that your worth is not something that can be dictated by anyone else? Drop your story in the comments below. If this story got you fired up, hit like, and don't forget to subscribe for more Underdog stories. Because in the end, the most important thing is to own your worth, to never let anyone make you feel small.